only thing that gon' be normal is distribution. Normal folks gon' infuse some. Optimize your lineups and you feed the rest, you mute them. Turning it up, these numbers are loud. Peeping this game from a nimbus is wild. Making it rain. While I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bell, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bell, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Hey, really the only thing that gon' be normal is distribution. Normal folks gon' infuse some. Optimize your lineups and you feed the rest, you mute them. Turning it up, these numbers are loud. Peeping this game from a nimbus is wild. Making it rain. While I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bell, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bell, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Hey, really the only thing that gon' be normal is distribution. Normal folks gon' infuse some. Optimize your lineups and you feed the rest, you mute them. Turning it up, these numbers are loud. Peeping this game from a nimbus is wild. Making it rain. While I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bell, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bell, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Hey, really the only thing that gon' be normal is distribution. Normal folks gon' infuse some. Optimize your lineups and you feed the rest, you mute them. Turning it up, these numbers are loud. Peeping this game from a nimbus is wild. Making it rain. While I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bell, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bell, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Hey, really the only thing that gon' be normal is distribution. Normal folks gon' infuse some. Optimize your lineups and you feed the rest, you mute them. Turning it up, these numbers are loud. Peeping this game from a nimbus is wild. Making it rain. While I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bell, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bell, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Hey, really the only thing that gon' be normal is distribution. Normal folks gon' infuse some. Optimize your lineups and you feed the rest, you mute them. Turning it up, these numbers are loud. Peeping this game from a nimbus is wild. Making it rain. While I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bell, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bell, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Hey, really the only thing that gon' be normal is distribution. Normal folks gon' infuse some. Optimize your lineups and you feed the rest, you mute them. Turning it up, these numbers are loud. Peeping this game from a nimbus is wild. Making it rain. While I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bell, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bell, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still.
And welcome in to the Best Bell Fantasy Football Podcast and live stream. My name is Bradley Stalder. You can follow me on Twitter at FFStalder. Also, if you like the content for tonight, make sure you hit that red subscribe button, especially for those who are new. It's right there. It's going to be a lot of fun drafting with you tonight. I'm jumping into a never too early 2023 FFPC Bestball draft. And for those who are unfamiliar with FFPC, this is a standard PPR best ball tournament. It's going to be 20 rounds tonight. And full PPR. The one wrinkle for FFPC, for those who are new, is that it is a tight end premium. So we'll see how drafters really will attack this draft early 2021. For those who are new, I do a lot of fantasy football content, and it ranges from drafts to player profiles. I've got a player profile publication that will hopefully be coming out here in the next couple months. I'm really excited about talking about that upside guide for you. And there's a lot that's going on. I talk about, if you check out my YouTube channel, you'll see today I posted a video about my thoughts on Sean Payton getting traded to the Denver Broncos from the New Orleans Saints. I think it was a fair trade. The biggest takeaway from this is that Denver finally has a head coach and a quarterback. I think Sean Payton has enough experience to be able to right the ship, frankly, for the Denver Broncos. There was just so much brokenness in the offensive play calling, in the game management, and that's something that Sean Payton can bring to the table, that Super Bowl champion Sean Payton. So what I want to do tonight is get into a little bit of player takes, but also a little bit of strategy of how I want to attack this 20-round draft. Since I'm at the 6th pick, we're going to see where that lands me. But looking at where a few other drafts have gone, it seems as though the picks around that spot are going to be like Tyreek Hill. They're going to be like Jamar Chase, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler. Those seem to be players going here in the early rounds, in that early first 6 picks or so. So I'll probably get one of those players. And at this point, it's about picking for upside. And among the running backs with most or the highest top 5 rate, and that's going to be Derrick Henry from this past year. 31.4% of his weeks, he was a top 5 running back. Derrick Henry, though, going to be 30 years old during the season. And that's going to be one of the things I put on my upside guide that I will be getting out in the next couple months, is a gauge of how close these players are to falling off the proverbial cliff. That's going to be an important part of something that we keep in mind. How close are these players to falling off? What kind of risk is it that they are just no longer fantasy viable? And if they're in their prime, right, it's very unlikely that they're going to fall off. But if they're in that danger zone, after that age 30 for running backs, or even into age 33 or later for the wide receivers, that's going to be a real danger zone, where we saw, Julio Jones produce at age 30, 31, 32, but the injuries start cropping up, the bodies start taking more blows, and that's something that is really worrisome. Here in the best ball drafts, a couple things I want to make note of as we get into the final minute before the draft starts. Rookies are in this draft, so I might be a little bit rookie happy. That's fine. A few recommendations as you're drafting rookies in these way too early best ball drafts. You want to be looking at reputable mock drafts, okay? Not the ESPN Mel Kiper drafts, but where are the consensus and generally people taking these players? We don't have the combine yet. The Senior Bowl just got underway today. So where are these rookies projected? And one of the places that I look is in PFF. Where is PFF ranking these players or projecting that they go in a particular round? That's going to be telling for possible draft capital. Obviously, PFF gets things wrong. So does everybody in the mock draft streets, but at least gives you a range or an idea of where these players could go. So the draft is going to get underway here in just a moment, and I have the 6th pick. I am keeping a very close, watchful eye on my ADP versus others. And the first player to go off the board is going to be Justin Jefferson here. Okay. Very good. Not too crazy. And while we're getting underway, I want to shout out Jose, faithful viewer. Appreciate you jumping in. He's surprised that I like Peyton. I think that Peyton comes in with a game plan for success for Russell Wilson. That's going to be, and then glad the broadcast up while you were still up. Yeah, 10 o'clock Eastern time is pretty late, but here we are. Okay. I am on the clock, and this makes me very happy because I'm going to be able to draft one of my favorite players in the best ball streets for this year. It's going to be Travis Kelce. I love drafting Travis Kelce very highly in these tight end premium drafts. I want to talk about Kelce for a moment. If you're familiar with me, you know that I'm a big Kelce believer, not just because, he's on the Chiefs and they're going to the Super Bowl and that's a great narrative, but no, like Travis Kelce, even into his age 33 season, 57% of the time, he was a top 5 tight end this past year at age 33. So I am very in on Kelce. Very excited about the difference that he makes. And also, because this is tight end premium, not only am I getting the best player at the position, I'm also getting those bonuses at a 1Z position. And that's going to be the difference maker. If you look at King Capital's team that won the Best Ball Mania 3 regular season, he had Travis Kelce on his team, and he was able to pair him pretty nicely because he didn't need to start almost any other tight end. The only time that he really needed another tight end was Evan Ingram in the last week. And Evan Ingram was a really, really late pick. Now, Underdog is not tight end premium, but that bumps up Kelce in this particular format. So I am big into drafting Travis Kelce within the first. Heck, I took him at 103 in another FFPC draft. I'm willing to take him that early. If I have the 101, I'm at least eyebrow raising it. I still think Justin Jefferson is a significant draft asset at the 101, just because Jefferson 48% of the time in 2022 was 48% of the time he was a top 5 wide receiver weekly. So I am big on Justin Jefferson as well. I think he's worthy of the 101 because of the differential between Justin Jefferson at 48.1% of the time as a top 5 wide receiver. The number 2 wide receiver in that was Davante Adams at just under 38%. So there was a 10% difference. And you're talking, what's the difference of 10%? That's a game and a half probability that Justin Jefferson was a top 5 tight end more than the next closest wide receiver. Kirk Cousins is going to be back. Dalvin Cook may not be back. I mean, the Vikings went from the 14th run heaviest team to the 28th run heaviest team in the NFL this past year. They're going to be getting the ball to Justin Jefferson yet again in 2023. So I like Justin Jefferson in the 101. I also like Kelce at the 101, and Fantasy Dog jumps in and says Kelce it is, and in a tight end premium, Kelce at number 1. Yeah, I don't hate it at all. I am willing to take Kelce at the 101 just because of the difference he makes. And you're like, okay, well, the difference between Justin Jefferson and Davante Adams was about 10%. How big was the difference between Kelce and number 2? Well, Kelce, remember, was at 57% of the time. He was a top 5 tight end. Kittle was number 2, 32.8% of the time. Kelce was almost double the rate of the top 5 tight end weeks that George Kittle, the number 2 tight end, was. We're talking about massive upside and consistent upside. So yes, I like Travis Kelce there. That's a big, big win in the best ball streets to get Travis Kelce, difference maker. Okay, so looking at the board, a couple things I want to point out. Jamar Chase went number 1. I don't hate it, but I also don't love it either. Jamar Chase, among wide receivers, was 4th in top 5 wide receiver rate, but he was in the same tier as Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp. Like, I don't understand why you would pass up Justin Jefferson unless you have like a real, hatred for Justin Jefferson, or you have a preference in that way. So keeping that in mind is something I'm not in on drafting Jamar Chase that early in these types of drafts. I love that he was getting more targets and a better target share and wasn't like as boom but. But Justin Jefferson is going to be my wide receiver 1 for this year. All right, I'm coming up here in just a moment, and we're looking at a different option. Bijan Robinson just goes off. That is a wild pick. Yeah, looking at who here is in the second round. Yeah, let's see. About 45 seconds left. I'll look at who else was taken in that second round. Yeah, Bijan Robinson, that was a little earlier than I had hoped. I was hoping to get him. I don't hate like let's see. Oh, did Devonta Smith already go off? Maybe we'll go Devonta Smith here. I like Devonta Smith, but looking at upside, maybe we don't go Devonta Smith. We go with Jalen Waddle. Let's go with Jalen Waddle, wide receiver. Jalen Waddle was last year the wide receiver 7 in top 5 wide receiver rate. He was at nearly 13% of the time a top 5 wide receiver. And so getting Waddle is pretty nice here. It allows me to stack with Tua, and Tua had a nice little upside bit before he got injured. The Miami Dolphins seem to have committed to Tua. That's at least what they're saying. But I like getting Waddle in the second round, wide receiver 10 right now. Ramondre Stevenson goes off in the second round. That's a little early for me, in my opinion. It's so hard to do these live drafts, partly because I want to give you good analysis, partly because, yeah, like there are some unexpected plays that you're like, wait, what happened? Who drafted where? So I like getting that wide receiver, especially in a PPR type of setting. A Waddle, 22% target share this past year, certainly coexisted with Tyreek Hill. Did not have the high. He did have some high upside games, but I do have concerns about Waddle being able to get into that 30% target share. I don't mind him as wide receiver 10. I mean, looking at some of the wide receivers that were still on the board, like Hopkins is still there, but looking at what Hopkins has done, Hopkins has turned into like a fine wide receiver 2 for you. T. Higgins, is still on the board, but T. Higgins just doesn't have upside. That's kind of disgusting. From an upside perspective, he could also be traded to a wide receiver needed team, which may free up his target share. That's fine. But as long as he's with Jamar Chase, like last year, T. Higgins, 0.7% of the time, T. Higgins was a top 5 wide receiver. Yikes. Okay. So that is concerning to me, and why I would take, Jalen Waddle over the likes of T. Higgins. The upside is just simply there. Okay. And that's shown over the last couple seasons. All right. Devonta Smith goes off at the 3-1. TJ Hawkinson goes off at the 2-12. Not a ton of surprises. Amon-Ra St. Brown went off as the wide receiver 9. T. Higgins, we've seen a wide receiver start. And for those unfamiliar with FFPC, it is start 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and 2 flexes. Okay, and this is a 20 round. So right now, I'm probably not going to draft another tight end until way, way late, because I expect Kelsey to produce, and not just produce, but produce wide receiver 1, running back 1 level type of scoring for me. That's how my team is going to be successful. Jalen Waddle gets me some upside because Hill is off the board, Adams is off the board, Chase is off the board, Amon-Ra St. Brown off the board, all wide receivers that have higher top 5 rates from 2022. We saw Eckler, Josh Jacobs, and Joe Mixon go off running back for the third team here. And then we've seen Cooper Kupp Ramondre Stevenson up. Fantasy Dog asking, is this is best ball? Yes. And this is full PPR. Yes. And this is also tight end premium, which is why Kelsey goes in the first round in this, but not just first round, but he was very high in the first round. Okay. So let's look at some of the ADPs. Pittman is not one of the considerations here. Let's see who running backs or wide receivers. We're going to look at all actually. And let's go with the stack here to make sure I get my stack. Draft now. Patrick Mahomes goes as the quarterback 2 here. I like taking that stack of Kelsey and Mahomes. And for those who are at home, you're like, okay, what good is having Patrick Mahomes on your team? Mahomes was a top 5 quarterback 44.3% of the time. He was second behind Jalen Hurts. And I don't hate taking like Jalen Hurts over Mahomes, taking Jalen Hurts over Josh Allen. I don't hate those. And taking him to stack with Kelsey. Mahomes is not going to come back to me in the 4th round. I have now my 2 onesie positions solidified. And I've got a top 10 wide receiver in Jalen Waddle. This is one of those drafts where now I'm going to hammer wide receiver and probably take some late running backs. We'll see how that goes. I also am setting myself up. One of the things that I learned from the King Capital build is not be afraid to take one more stud quarterback as we move forward. So a nice pairing would be Mahomes and Tua to stack with Jalen Waddle. So that's someone. I hope I don't get sniped. I hope I don't get sniped for Tua as we move forward. Right now, Tua is going. Oh, where is he? His ADP for underdog and you know, underdog be it as it may, Tua is going as the quarterback 11. So I'll just keep that in mind as the draft keeps going, that he's going to be a target. I'm not going to force myself to go too early for Tua, but at the same time, that's going to be a player that I'm keeping in mind as my other quarterback. You do not want to be like drafting. You need a good if you want to win these leagues, if you want to win these tournaments, you need studs at the positions that other players might just whiff on. So if you can have difference making Travis Kelce and Mahomes at the onesie position, you are all set. You can consolidate those, and then we can move forward. Fantasy Dog, Mahomes is number 1 quarterback next year. Hurts is number 2. Good pick. Thank you. Appreciate that. It's certainly, a consideration for how is Jalen Hurts going to play next year. I'm excited for the Super Bowl, this matchup between Hurts and Kelsey, Mahomes and Hurts. Mahomes leading the NFL in passing touchdowns. Jalen Hurts leading the league in rushing touchdowns, both among quarterbacks. So there we go as we're moving forward. And at Fantasy Dog, onesies are super important. Absolutely. If anything, I would say that they're the ones that like you aren't going to take your shots on. Like you're not going to put a blindfold over your head and say, you know what, I'm not going to pay attention to my quarterback, or I'm going to stream my quarterback and tight end. If anything, the complete opposite is true for redraft versus these best ball tournament type of drafts. You need to be taking players that you don't need to stream or worry about. Okay. That's the thing. You are not picking up waivers in these best ball tournaments. You cannot depend on your late round quarterback hitting or occasionally giving you a spike week. As we saw with King Capital's team, he drafted 3 quarterbacks. He won the whole thing. He won the $1 million for the best ball regular season. How he won was with Burrow and Hurts. He had 2 stud quarterbacks, and he just waited for this value at quarterback to come through. So that's what you kind of want to do is find these upside quarterbacks. And Hurts was 56% of the time, 57% of the time, a top 5 quarterback. Burrow was 25% of the time. Okay. So let's look at all I am up next, and it looks like we've had a nice little quarterback run. The running backs that are available here. Yeah, we see Dallas Goedert go off the board. We see Kyle Pitts go off the board. Yeah, I'm feeling really good about Kelsey in that first round. And yeah, let's see. There is a surprise faller here. I mean, I don't hate him, but I don't understand how he's going to fall this far. I would be surprised if Big Mike lets him go. He probably is not going to take him, though, given the build that he has. Yeah, I mean, let me pull up the stats and I'll talk about this player in just a moment. We got 15 seconds left. Ooh, man, oh, man. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that this particular player is still available to me in the middle of the 4th round, and that is Dalvin Cook. Look, I have talked about Dalvin Cook being a sell this offseason, but for me to get him as the running back 17, Dalvin Cook at running back 17, are you kidding me? Dalvin Cook this past year, running back 11 in top 5 running back rate. Okay, 11.5. Yeah, Dalvin Cook at the running back 17. What? I don't get it. He was running back 11 in top 5 rate, and among running backs in flex rate, Dalvin Cook was also 13th. So those are types of upsides that I can't ignore. And I did talk about how Minnesota, I expect them to be more pass heavy, but they were 28th in rush rate, and that's what Dalvin Cook was still able to put up. Like, Dalvin Cook was not super efficient. He was not catching a lot of passes, but to get him at running back 17, I mean, that seems completely out of place. Dalvin Cook, it was running back 12 in fantasy points per game and half PPR. As I said, I don't hate it. There are some players that, some running backs that I'm keeping in mind as we're moving forward. But yeah, man, oh man, that's exciting. That's exciting to see. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to put that one up, but great pick. Thank you. I was not expecting Dalvin Cook to be there at running back 17. Based on a draft that I just did, Dalvin Cook went as the running back 13 in the 3rd round. So almost a full round later, and 4 running backs later, I got some value on Dalvin Cook. This is turning into a very interesting build. Kenneth Walker going in the 2nd round. That's pretty nice, but we will see who else comes back around to me. Tony Pollard came off the board at running back 19. That's surprising to me that he fell that late. I'm not sure what happens with Tony Pollard. It could be that Zeke comes back on a restructured contract, and Tony Pollard is still a nice, really, really nice spike week type of player. But he's also coming off of the injury. But also Mike McCarthy is going to be the play caller now, and we have some eyebrow raises about Mike McCarthy's competency as a play caller. So I do have questions about that. Lamar Jackson is a nice upside pick at quarterback 6, but DJ Moore comes back around at the wide receiver 18, and DJ Moore was wide receiver 27 in rate of being a top 5 wide receiver this year. And then among all wide receivers, DJ Moore was wide receiver 24. So I feel like DJ Moore, like, if he gets a good quarterback, that might be a nice play. But Sam Darnold played a couple nice games. Baker Mayfield had a couple of nice games. It's just that they kept getting injured and there was inconsistency there. But DJ Moore had the best touchdown season of his career. He was putting up wide receiver 2 like efficiency numbers, but the The yardage was not there because of the inconsistency. So we will see what happens with DJ Moore. Okay. Jose asked me, what do you think about Lawrence in 2023? Can he be a top 8 quarterback? I think so. I absolutely think so. Trevor Lawrence was quarterback 4 this past year in top 5 quarterback rate. He was 25%. Only Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts was higher in that rate. And he's, I think, going to be a really nice pick. His ADP on Underdog, I don't trust the ADP right now on the FFPC because it's so new. But looking at where Lawrence is going, he's going as the quarterback 8 and he goes as the quarterback 7 here. I don't see a stacking possibility, but there are some reasons to be optimistic about Trevor Lawrence, given the progression he made from Urban Meyer to Doug Peterson just in that from year 1 to year 2. Man, oh man, y'all are gonna make me take some players that I'm not normally taking at these spots, but here we go. Okay. I'm just checking off some players off of my checkbox list so that I see if there's any value that's left on the board. Because as I said, I don't trust the ADP that is up on the FFPC. Yeah, so okay. Well, we just saw Justin Fields go off as the quarterback 8. Okay, and we saw Joe Mixon go off. Interesting. Okay, he went off. How much time I got? He went off. Okay, so we're going to go with a player that is always criminally undervalued. It's going to be another running back here, and it's going to be a player that I think is going to stick around, and that's Aaron Jones, running back 20. Okay, and Aaron Jones, he set career highs in receptions this past season. Yes, you could argue, well, what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers? I don't care. I think Aaron Jones is going to be one of those high upside running backs. He always has been. He's got breakaway speed. He's shown the efficiency metrics. Aaron Jones was top 10 this past year in top 5 running back rate at nearly 12%. So I have between myself 23% of the time I'm expecting a top 5 running back from Aaron Jones or Dalvin Cook. And based on the stats from last year, nearly 21% of the time they were between a top 5 and top 10 running back. So I like pairing those together. Those are some nice value picks. I think, like, to get Aaron Jones a running back 20 or Dalvin Cook a running back 17, I think those are just values. Okay. Yeah, the Pollard injury might be affecting it. And then Fancy Dog saying Lawrence will get some rushing touchdowns stacked with Ingram if not Kelsey. Yeah, so we'll see what happens there, okay? Very good. So there we go. I've got some running backs, and I think I'm going to get a lot of value on wide receiver. I mean, we are 22 in, but, I mean, there are some really nice wide receivers still out there. And as I'm going to take a moment to update my... Oh, yes. Okay, good. We got Dalvin Cook off the board. Calvin Ridley's off the board. DeAndre Swift is off the board. Justin Herbert, Javonte is off the board. Okay. Trevor Lawrence is off the board. Najee Harris is off the board. Pittman is off the board. Chris Godwin is off the board. Aaron Jones is off the board. Dameon Pierce, that was a surprising surprising pick is running back 16. I don't trust that Pierce is going to be the lead back. There's a new coach. Dameon Pierce was a day 3 draft pick. He definitely slowed down near the end of the year. The efficiency wasn't there. You don't think the Houston offense is going to be particularly good this year as well. There's just not a lot of reasons for optimism for Dameon Pierce as a potential upside play. I mean, even looking at what he did this past year, Dameon Pierce, yes, he was a flex play. Where was he? At running back 16. So he was 16th among running backs in rate at which he finished with at least 12 and a half PPR fantasy points, but 0% of the time he was a top 5 running back. There were only 2 other running backs in the top 16 who had 0 top 5 weeks, and that was Ezekiel Elliott and James Conner. Ezekiel Elliott and James Conner. Okay. So we see Mike Williams go off the board here. We see Amari Cooper go off the board. Christian Watson goes off the board. That's terrible. Let's see. Okay. Dobbins is off the board. Kittle is off the board, of course. All right. And we're looking at maybe some wide receivers, or if there are some running backs that have some nice upside too, we could go that way. Just looking at the rank. Okay. Really? Really interesting. Okay, we are on the clock and looking at we need some more wide receiver upside. So Christian Watson is a target for me often in these drafts, but he went off the board. He went off the board here. There is a wide receiver who 9.5% of the time was a top 5 wide receiver, and that was the ever reliable Mike Evans. And taking Mike Evans in the 6th round at wide receiver 29, man, oh man, what a value there, I thought. Wide receiver 29, yes. Yeah, Christian Kirk went off the board, sorry to say, to stack with, wow. You've got to think that the one team that drafted Ridley, Kirk, and Etienne really wanted that Trevor Lawrence pick, but oh well, it didn't happen. Okay, so Mike Evans as my wide receiver 2, that's turning out to be pretty good. Wide receiver 29 in this draft here. Evans is going on underdog as the wide receiver 27, so I got some nice value there. Okay. And then Treylon Burks goes off right after that. Rachaad White at running back 22. I'm not sure if I can get in on Rachaad White. Like, he didn't show me the upside that I wanted at the running back position. That's a lot of projection that he's going to get we have a new offensive coordinator for the Bucs coming. Maybe it's Monken. Maybe it's someone else. I don't think they've officially hired Monken, but I know he was interviewing. McLaurin goes off the board, and you're thinking to yourself, Bradley, why did you pick Mike Evans over Terry McLaurin? And, well, let's look. Control F, McLaurin. Terry McLaurin, 0% of the time was a top 5 wide receiver last year. Okay, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, but Bradley, what about the rest of his career? Let's look at Terry McLaurin. Okay, so Terry McLaurin's max score in 2022 was 20.5 fantasy points. His career max is 27.3. And his 84th percentile score in 2022 was 15.7 fantasy points. That doesn't even register on the first page of my upside guide. Terry McLaurin was wide receiver 33 last year in 84th percentile score. Wide receiver 33. And he's being drafted at wide receiver 31. I just can't get behind, like, in these best ball drafts, taking players that have not demonstrated upside. Like, it's hard to project a player saying, oh yes, he's going to do it way better. Like, I'm not confident that Terry McLaurin can get there. Okay. So his last 3 years, top 5 rate, 1.9%. His career top 5 rate, 2.8%. That's Terry McLaurin. I can't get behind Terry McLaurin being a target, even as a high-end wide receiver 3. You are still going for ceiling. You are still going for upside and winning weeks in round 6 and round 7. Don't be settling for floor at this point. Don't be settling for floor. Still be going for ceiling. Okay? You don't want to play safe. You're not going to win your league by drafting Terry McLaurin as your wide receiver 2. Okay? I'm sorry. Like, you need to be going after a little bit more higher upside players that, yeah, they might whiff, but they might hit. And that's what we want to be targeting here. Oh my gosh. I can't believe that there is a player right here. And I'm just, I want to pull the trigger so bad on drafting him. Oh, is he there? Okay. I'm going to draft this player, and then I'm probably going to hold tight to this position for a while. And that's going to be James Conner. And I know I'm talking about upside, but we're talking about volume upside. James Conner consistently 85, 90% of the running back touches, and he's under contract for a big contract this year in Arizona. And with Kyler Murray dealing with that ACL, Kyler Murray is projected to miss the first 4 games. That's how that's what I'm thinking, is he's going to be missing these first 4 games. And looking at what James Conner was able to do while Kyler Murray was out. James Conner, 2022. From the New England game on, these were his finishes. 23.4 fantasy points in PPR, 18.1 fantasy points in PPR, 25 in PPR, and 14 in PPR. He finished as running back 5, 12, 4, and 15. What? That's James Conner without Kyler Murray. And all we need is James Conner to give us a couple spike weeks. I already have Aaron Jones and Dalvin Cook. And I've got Jalen Waddle and Mike Evans as my wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. So now I'm just floating in upside. That's what I want to be attacking. So I really, really like the James Conner pick. I know he didn't get that top 5 rate, but his top 10 rate was 27.9%. Okay. 27.9%. And James Conner, that was running back 8. He was 8th in top 10 rate among all running backs. So give me a lot of James Conner. He's going to get the volume to start the season. We saw extreme upside weeks with Kyler Murray not in the lineup. He's going to get a lot more of the goal line work. I like the James Conner pick at running back 25. He catches passes out of the backfield. He's given the rushes. And all we need is for him to hold on. And I'm going to hold on to not drafting running backs for a while. At least that's my hope. That's my prayer. That's what I'm thinking about in this draft. Now I can just attack wide receiver upside pretty much the rest of the way. I can attack wide receiver upside the rest of the way. Okay. And we're going to go with top 10 rate. Okay. Ooh, okay. There are some players that we're missing. Ooh, yes. I'm really excited to see some of the players that I will be drafting here in a second. Where is? Oh, did he get taken off already? Was he drafted? I don't think so. Okay. Just setting up the queue here. If you have questions, put it into the chat. Love to hear from y'all. It's great. Great hearing from y'all. Jose and Fantasy Dog are jumping in. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that red subscribe button. It really, really helps the channel grow. At the beginning of the season, I was at like 50, 55 subscribers, and now we're up to over 700. So I'm really, really grateful for the community that we built, and I'm excited to be doing this with you in the off season. I will be doing some monthly drafts, some mock drafts with you, best ball draft here on FFPC, and oh yes, baby, there we go. We're gonna go with this player. Rookie wide receiver Quentin Johnson. And you're probably thinking to yourself, Bradley, why did you draft Quentin Johnson in the 8th round? Well, there is some data to back this up. You're asking why are we drafting a rookie at this point, wide receiver 40? Well, let me tell you, every single wide receiver, rookie wide receiver drafted in round 1 or in the top 34 picks were drafted outside the top 36 of wide receivers in ADP last year. But here's the thing. If we look at their top 10 rate, combine all of their games together and just rate them out, those players, Christian Watson and above, so the top 34 picks in the NFL draft among wide receivers, that would have been 16th best in top 10 wide receiver rate. They would have been top 21 in top 5 rate. And let's see, 30 or 29 or 28th, I should say, 29th in 12.5 half PPR points or more. So Quentin Johnson is going to be one of those wide receivers. I'm taking a shot on him, and I'm willing to take a lot of these rookie wide receivers, especially because you're probably not going to get a lot of, you'll get sprinkling of exposure here, sprinkling of exposure there. But until we get projected draft capital, or until we get actually draft capital, you want to be looking at what are some reliable places to be getting projected draft capital. And one of the places that I look is in PFF. And Jose's asking, is PFF a free resource for rookie draft projections? I do have a subscription there. So you're going to have to, I think they have varying levels of subscriptions, but Quentin Johnson is projected in the 1st round, and I've seen him go as high in some of these mock drafts as 10th overall. I've seen him fall to 16th, but all of these mock drafts, I've seen Quentin Johnson go there, and I want some exposure to these first 34 picks in the NFL draft. So the Quentin Johnsons of the world, and we just saw Jackson Smith and Jigba go off at wide receiver 42. Right, Smith and Jigba absolutely crushed in 2021. Rashad Bateman goes off here, wide receiver 43. Some young but unproven wide receivers coming off here. Jameson Williams at wide receiver 41. I love Jameson Williams. Jordan Addison goes off at this spot. Okay, and I think there's only one other wide receiver that I think I would want to take, possibly. But we'll also look and see, are we going with rookies only? No, we're also going to look at some other upside. So I do want some sprinkling exposure to Quentin Johnson and other projected, or at least close to projected, 1st round wide receivers. Yep, receiving core is good. Do I have an ideal roster construction for FFPC and underdog, etc.? I think part of the roster construction is about what draft picks come to you, Jose. Like if Travis Kelce was already picked, I'm not going to force myself to take Mark Andrews, right? And so I think that the roster constructions depend on who is going to be available to you, right? Because if I was able to get Kelce, then I'm interested in getting Mahomes, and that's going to domino affect the rest of my draft. Okay. So it's going to domino affect the rest of my draft, which means that I'm going to focus on running back and wide receiver pretty much the rest of the way. I will possibly take another star quarterback here coming up, but let's look at some of the quarterback data just to see if there's any lingering values here. Ooh, okay. I don't know. There aren't any that really pop out for me. So when it comes to like ideal roster construction, it depends on where those first couple picks go, is my feedback. Okay. Because in this instance, like my roster construction is going to be very tight on quarterback and tight end. I'm not going to draft a lot of those. I just don't see like winning with piecemealing together tight ends and quarterbacks. It's just not a projection, a way that I see success happening with this team. Okay. So let's take a look at some other. Okay. You know what? I think this is the right time. This is the right time to do this. We're going to take Tua. Okay. And that's going to do two things. It's going to, I'm all set with quarterback. I've got my two quarterbacks. I do not need any more. It's stacking Kelce and Mahomes. It's, as I said, consolidating that position. And looking at the type of quarterback that Tua was this past year, 15.3% of the time, Tua was a top 5 quarterback. And that is including the 2 games that he had to leave early due to concussion. So if we take those 2 games out, we're looking at a significant difference of top 5 and top 10 rates of quarterback scoring. So Tua was a top 12 quarterback in fantasy points per game. So I am all set at quarterback. I've got the stack happening. I've got 3, yes, kind of dusty running backs, but they're going to get volume next year. If Dalvin Cook gets cut, he's going to get picked up by somebody who's going to use him. He's got a nice fat contract. He is a sneaky cut candidate, though. Same thing with Aaron Jones, but both, Aaron Jones in particular, very, very dynamic still. I was not disappointed with some of the efficiency metrics we saw from Aaron Jones this past year. Aaron Jones in efficiency, he was 7th in true yards per carry. This is Aaron Jones was 12th in yards per touch, 14th in juke rate, 9th in evaded tackles, 15th in breakaway run rate, 9th in breakaway runs, 10th in yards created per touch, 8th in yards created, 9th in production premium. Okay. And so Aaron Jones still has it. Okay. Aaron Jones still has it. Dalvin Cook, probably going to get volume. Same thing with James Conner, but I'm going to take some late shots on some rookie running backs as well, or maybe some undervalued dart throw running backs. We'll see how that construction goes. But I am going to take some more wide receivers coming up very, very shortly. Okay. Let's see if there are any other wide receiver values. Okay, cool. We saw McLaurin go off, Allen, Kamara, Kirk, London, Hawkinson. We did see Prescott go off. We saw Pitts go off. Lockett did go off. Once again, Lockett, wide receiver 36, is a tremendous value. Deshaun Watson is off. Moore, Connor, Brown, Goddard. Jerry Jeudy at wide receiver 25. That's interesting. Ayuk, Jameson Williams, Sanders. We saw George Pickens go off at wide receiver 34. Treylon Burks went off at wide receiver 30, I believe. Gabe Davis at 29. Okay, so there are some other players out there that have some nice upside. Okay. We saw Mooney and Zay Jones go off. Wow. All right. We've got a few others here. I'm going to talk about some research that I've been doing for these players to export. All right. Well, let's look at expected top 5 rate. Where is that? Expected top 5 rate. Z to A. Interesting. We saw Daniel Jones and Aaron Rodgers go off. There is one player that has a double-digit expected top 5 rate of 18.45 fantasy points that has not been picked yet. And he was nestled between Garrett Wilson, Mike Evans, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and CeeDee Lamb. And he is still available. But his ADP, where's his ADP at? An underdog. Where he is. Yeah, I think we can wait a little bit on this particular player. Okay, well, we saw a few others go off the board. What are we in round number 10? All right. And looking here, this is going to be an interesting pick. We're going to go with an oldie but a goodie, and that is Michael Thomas. We're going to take some upside pick here. Wherever Michael Thomas lands, it's going to be an interesting spot because Michael Thomas, if we look over the past few years, has been an absolute force when he has been on the field. Michael Thomas. Yes. So his overall ADP is a little bit later than this, but given the lack of upside that maybe, I'm lacking on the back end, he's projected. He's actually ADP wide receiver 50 on Underdog right now. So to get him at wide receiver 51, I guess that's not too bad. His max score in 2022 was 20.2 fantasy points. And his last 3 years max was 20.2, but his career max 35.7. Still an 18.7, 84th percentile score. And you're like, well, wait, where does that rank among wide receivers? Between CeeDee Lamb and Mike Williams. Now, granted, Michael Thomas did not play a lot in 2022. He only played 3 games. But I think that this is the Antonio Brown corollary. He's still a talented wide receiver at an older age, and his skill set hasn't diminished. He's not one of those bigger bodied wide receivers like the Brandon Marshalls of the world, right? If Michael Thomas is out there, he's going to be scoring fantasy points. So you want to be going for these upside picks, and Michael Thomas at wide receiver 51. Yeah, give me some of that. Give me some of that. Especially since we don't know what the New Orleans Saints are going to be doing on offense. He might be the focal point along with Chris Olave, especially with Alvin Kamara with a pending suspension possibility in 2023. But I like taking Michael Thomas as we know if he is on the field, he's going to be crushing. We know he's going to be crushing. Okay. Now, I'm going to see if there are any other nice values out here as we're going through. Yeah, looking good so far. I'm happy with how this build is going. I am probably going to hammer more wide receivers as we move forward. We see the Dotsons of the world off the board. The Juju Smith-Schuster is off the board. Let's see. I think it's hard to be tracking some of these in real time. Sutton went off the board to wide receiver 37. Yeah, there's some love for Sutton there. Okay. James Cook went off at running back 32. That's a nice little pick. Same with Khalil Herbert, Pat Freiermuth. Okay. Yeah, we're going to be wanting to target some of these upside wide receivers that we have seen in the past, but haven't quite hit. You know, maybe they had a bad year this past year. So let's look at the last 3 years top 5 rate. Last 3 years top 5 rate, Z to A, and some of the players that are still out there who register on this list. Adam Thielen, 11% of the time. He was a top 5 wide receiver over the past 3 seasons, but he was 0% last season. And I wonder if he is one of those big-bodied wide receivers that just is falling off the cliff. So that is a red flag for me that he's dropped down that much. Okay, looking at a couple other later picks. Ooh, Zach Charbonnet going off. Wow. Okay, we've got some show only rookies. I'm not. There's been some love for some of the rookies. Yeah, there's a. Oh wow. Okay, yeah, I think I'm gonna go with a rookie wide receiver here. I don't care who this next person picks because I'm going to go with a rookie because there is a wide receiver who's projected to go in the first round who has not yet been drafted. And he's consistently been in the mock drafts I've seen on PFF between wide receiver 16 and wide receiver 20. Or not wide receiver 16, wide receiver 20. Draft pick 1.16 and 1.20. And Sean Tucker just went off the board. That's fine. I'm going to go with this wide receiver, Zay Flowers. So let's go some Zay Flowers here. He's projected to be a mid first round pick per PFF. That's wild to me. We will see how it goes, but like I want to be taking shots on players like that where he can easily return wide receiver 53, right? And looking at the data and history of top 34 picks, like Zay Flowers could move to the early second round and still be a tremendous value. So I like taking Zay Flowers there. I'm hitting up a lot of him, drafting a lot of him. And here's the thing is like you're taking these players at wide receiver 40, wide receiver 51, wide receiver 53. You're not expecting them to be the wide receiver 1 or 2. But based on history based on the stats from last season, the wide receivers who are drafted in the first 34 picks, they tend to hit pretty nicely. A 14% rate of being a top 10 wide receiver. And I've got 2 players who project to be in the top 30 of this year's draft as of right now. And now this is the last day of January. A lot can change with the combine. A lot can change elsewhere. But we're talking about the 17th highest rate of top 10 weeks among those type of wide receivers. Joaquin De La Guardia asks, why now not taking running backs first? Yeah, that's a good question. Why am I not taking these running backs? Because there's a huge tier break. Well, I assume you're talking about the rookies, Joaquin. You're talking about the rookies, and really I see it as a Bijan Robinson in his own tier. And then you see Jahmyr Gibbs right at the beginning of the 7th round is the next closest running back that's off the board. And then in round 10, Zach Charbonnet. So that's one of the things is Like, we don't know where these running backs are going to get their draft capital, and those are a lot more in flux. Those are, I think, more dependent upon the combine, because once you get into day 4, it's a lot more risky. And I'll just take some players that I like in the day 3 and round 4 and beyond, like later on, as like last round picks, who I have done the research on and said, these are players who are going to be very solid contributor dart throws later on. Now, Joaquin followed up by saying Eckler won't keep it up this year. Maybe. I mean, to be fair, Austin Eckler in this draft was an auto pick. He was an auto pick. But we still think he's a weapon and a touchdown scorer, regardless of if, Kellen Moore uses him in the same way or in a different way. Yeah. So there we go. Okay. Jose says, I'll keep drafting wide receivers. Yeah, and there's actually another wide receiver who's projected to get, at least in a lot of the mock drafts that I've been getting, top 34 draft capital, and it's this wide receiver, Josh Downs, wide receiver out of North Carolina, I believe. And if we look at where Josh Downs won, let me see if I can pull it up here. So minimum targets, at least 50% of 86. Josh Downs was wide receiver 4 in PFF receiving grade this past season among all college wide receivers with at least 80 targets. Okay. So that was only behind Xavier Hutchinson, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Tez Johnson. Okay. And for those who are unfamiliar with Josh Downs, 83% in the slot, so primarily a slot wide receiver. Downs, yes, 2.17 yards per route run, but he was mostly a slot receiver who played very well. 135 rating that his quarterback was able to get him to. Now, maybe that's a product of May, the quarterback at North Carolina, but maybe not. Okay. Fantasy Dog is asking about DPJ, Moore, Jacksonville, Foreman, Hubbard. Yeah, Hubbard might be a very interesting pick. I noticed, and I want to take a moment and talk about this player because I love Wan'Dale Robinson, but my concerns about Wan'Dale Robinson are simple. He is a wide receiver coming off a mid-season ACL tear. We have not seen wide receivers come back from mid-season ACL tears and be matching their pre-ACL production the next season. Like, let's look at Michael Gallup, for instance. Did not happen. Or even let's change position. J.K. Dobbins did not come through until like the last 4 games of the season for you. That was a wasted season. And now Wan'Dale Robinson near the end of the season tears his ACL. Odell Beckham tears his ACL, is not the same. I am concerned about Wan'Dale Robinson being a significant contributor to your fantasy team. And look, in this team, Metcalf, McLaurin, Cooks, and then Wan'Dale Robinson, I don't like that because Wan'Dale is projected to miss some games. He might miss some games. And even if he doesn't, he's not going to be super productive to start, is my concern. And then you're going to be depending upon him probably. So I don't like that. I don't like that pick, especially given that like Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, like just don't access the same upside that other wide receivers do. And you're like, but Bradley, isn't DK Metcalf one of the highest upside wide receivers out there? And to that, I say, no. Let's look at this past season. DK Metcalf, 0% of the time was a top 5 wide receiver. And you're like, but Bradley, it was Geno Smith. Yeah, but Geno Smith threw for 30 touchdowns and over 4,000 passing yards. Okay, I think it was him and Mahomes and maybe like one other quarterback, just off the top of my head. But let's look at the top 3. Last last 3 years, top 5 rate for Metcalf. Pull it up. DK Metcalf, top 5 rate the last 3 years. Thanks for humoring me while I look this up because I'm convinced that is the case. Yes, so last 3 year, top 5 rate, 12%. That is wide receiver 11. Okay, still behind Jalen Waddle, still behind Amon-Ra St. Brown, still behind Calvin Ridley, A.J. Brown, Tyler Lockett, Jamar Chase. Yes, he's behind Tyler Lockett in upside. That's wild to me. Okay. Well, let's look at let's turn the rookie toggle off and actually see who are some of the players that are still left. Oh, this is great. Yes. We're going to take the player who was at least he was at 14% of the time expected to be a top 5 wide receiver. Top 5? Is it top 5? Yes. 14.4% of the time. This was wide receiver 11 and expected top 5 rate. And that is this player. I can't believe he's going to go off as wide receiver 61. And that is wide receiver Allen Lazard. Allen Lazard, this is per PFF. 14.4% of the time, Allen Lazard was expected to get at least 18.45 fantasy points in half PPR. So, look, he just fell on the wrong side of variance. He was 0% of the time. That was one of the biggest differences in a real top 5 rate versus expected. But that just tells you that there's upside for Allen Lazard. We are just hammering upside with these wide receivers. Jalen Waddle, Mike Evans, Quentin Johnson with first-round draft capital projected. Michael Thomas. Yes, he has downside. He could be a 0. But Zay Flowers, Josh Downs, Allen Lazard. So I'm feeling really good about the 2 wide receivers that are happening, that are going to be starting for me. Travis Kelce, I'm set at. Patrick Mahomes, I'm set at. And I've got 3 veteran running backs that should be able to hold on tight for me. And then I've been doing a little bit of research on these 4th round, 3rd round running backs that should be able to come up. But also we'll see if there are some running backs here that are super duper valuable and have been given some upside. I'm just going to scroll through and see if they're still there. Ooh, there's a player who's been getting a lot of hype at the Senior Bowl and might fall into round 2 draft capital possible. We'll see if he comes off. But first, I'm going to look and see. Add to the queue there. Oh, good. There is a player. I'm not going to say. I can't say. It's hard because some of y'all might be drafting along with me and maybe sniping me. But we'll see here. I am happy with how the build is going so far. Very, very wide receiver heavy in the middle of this draft. Waddle, Evans, Johnson, Thomas, Flowers, Downs, Lazard. I am drafting a lot of Downs and Flowers. I feel like those are players who Josh Downs was early declare, high PFF grade. I think he's going to play a nice little like Tyler Lockett type of role in the NFL. And if he just gives me 1 or 2 spike weeks, we're looking at good. There's been a lot of hype for Zay Flowers, like from the Film Bros. And if PFF is projecting him to be there, like one of the things that I gained respect for PFF in their scouting grades from this past year, because there was a lot of projection for Isaiah Spiller getting top 10, or Isaiah Spiller getting like day 2 draft capital and being like a round 2, round 3 pick. And I'll have to look it up, but I remember clearly and distinctly in about middle of February, PFF put out their 2022 rookie guide. I read through it and they had Spiller at like projected round 5. And I was like, wait, what? Why? And so I read through some of the things and I was like, wow, he is like not jumping off the page. Something is just not right with this player. He has a lot of the numbers to back it up, but why is he not grading well? Why are things not turning out? And it was just concerning to me. So I didn't draft a lot of Isaiah Spiller until, after I found out that he went to the Chargers and could play that Austin Eckler role, but he never made it. He never really got on the field almost at all in his rookie year, and that's concerning for me. So, Isaiah Spiller, I gained respect for PFF because some people like to crap on PFF, and I am not in that boat. I am not one of those people. Okay. Yeah, I'm not one of those people to do that. Anyways, so let's take a look at some of the wide receivers who are still out there. Oh man, what could have been with Allen Robinson? Like, he's still out there, but I'm not going to draft any of him. Yeah, I'm just scrolling through here. Wide receivers. Like, I like some of the wide receivers, but not at this spot in the draft. We're talking round 14. Okay. Let's see if there are any tight ends that are up here. Wow, we've got some trash tight ends. But what, we're in round 14. Tight end 24. Isaiah Likely just went off the board, and this is the perfect time to take this player, Taysom Hill. Let's go, Taysom Hill, tight end 25. I love drafting him at this spot. Taysom Hill, tight end at 25. I know this is tight end premium, but could Taysom Hill be the quarterback? He has like a $20 million dead cap hit for 2023. He is not going anywhere. And if Alvin Kamara is suspended, and heck, if the Michael Thomas thing doesn't work out, the contingency is Taysom Hill anyways. And I'm not depending upon Taysom Hill, but let's look, because I know Travis Kelce is going to be my top tight end, but I think this is the right spot for Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill last year was the tight end 10 in rate of which he achieved top 5 weeks. Evan Ingram was ahead of him. Njoku, Jawan Johnson, TJ Hawkinson, Cole Kmet, Dalton Schultz, Andrews, Kittle, and Kelce. Taysom Hill was also tight end 7 in fantasy points per game. So when he was crushing, he was absolutely crushing. And to get him as outside the top 24 of tight ends in best ball, give me some of that. So we're talking almost 70% of the time, my tight end position is going to get me a league winning level. And 60% of the time, my quarterback is going to get there. So now I just needed to have filled in Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones, James Conner, and now I can finish the last 5 rounds with running backs and wide receivers. Right now, I have a 2, 3, 7, 2 build. And I can throw some more running backs in. I can throw some more wide receivers in, but I'm exclusively going wide receiver and running back the rest of the way. And we are just going to be going on upside. There are still some very, very nice upside wide receivers and some rookie running backs that are going to get day 2 or day 3, early day 3 draft capital. Okay. So, and there are some really sneaky wide receiver picks. Donta Foreman goes off running back 53. I like that pick by that particular player. All right, we will see who comes back around to me. Jelani Woods goes off the board. Wait, are we really going to do this? We're going to draft Curtis Samuel. Okay, wide receiver. Wide receiver for Washington. And yes, there's Jahan Dotson there. Yes, there is Terry McLaurin there. But Curtis Samuel, he was a top 10 wide receiver 0.7% of the time, but was a 12.5 fantasy points 24% of the time. And you have to like what Samuel, not Debo, but we want Curtis Samuel. He's going off the boards at wide receiver 64, and I got him at 67. So that was a nice little value too. He's going to be 27 in 2023. Still a very, very valuable play. His max score in 2022 was 19.4, and his 84th percentile over the last 3 years, 15.6. His career top 5 rate or top 10 rate, 0.7%, but his last 3-year flex rate, nearly 30%. Billy has just hopped on. He wants to see the team. Yeah, so let's jump in here. I went Travis Kelce in the first round, and then Jalen Waddle at wide receiver 10. Patrick Mahomes to stack in the third round. Dalvin Cook at running back 17. Aaron Jones at 20. Then Evans at 29, wide receiver 29. James Conner at 20, running back 25. Then taking Quentin Johnson at wide receiver 40. Tua to stack with Waddle, but also as my second quarterback and the only other quarterback that I'm going to take. Michael Thomas at wide receiver 51. Zay Flowers at wide receiver 53. Downs at 56. Lazard at wide receiver 61, Taysom Hill at tight end at 25, and Curtis Samuel at wide receiver 67. So, yeah, that is the latest that I've seen Kelce go as well. I've seen him go at 101. I've seen him go 102. I've taken him myself at 103. For him to go at 106 was an absolute gift. So, a little rookie heavy, but I did give some justification based on historical data as to why I am in on some of the rookies. I mean, I have Flowers, Downs, and Quentin Johnson, all players who are being projected in the mock drafts on PFF to be all top 34 or so draft picks. And obviously those can change, as I mentioned earlier, based on the Senior Bowl, based on the combine, based on draft capital, landing spot, all of those. But those are players who, if we're taking shots at this point right now, there's not going to be a lot of people who have all three of those as a unique build among wide receivers. So I don't dislike that. I am probably going to go. I need a little bit more at running back coming back around. So let's see here. There are some just hanging out late here. Oh, there's one that I really want to take. I hope I'm not sniped here. See, I'm just waiting on this player. Appreciate y'all jumping in. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you're hitting that red subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Really appreciate that. It helps the channel grow. It's grown from about 50, 60 before the season to now, to now over 700 subscribers on the channel. So really appreciate you guys jumping in. Where'd he go? And that's going to be running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren was running back 12 in true yards per carry, 11th in yards per touch, 5th in juke rate, 16th in breakaway run rate, 5th in yards created per touch, and 2nd in expected points added. So this is a really dynamic player. He was 18th among all running backs in fantasy points per opportunity, extremely efficient. And if anything happens to Najee Harris, that is a nice contingency backup handcuff running back. And he was getting 30% of the snaps near the end of the season because he deserved it. He was a good player for the Steelers, and I wouldn't be surprised if he starts like continuing to nibble a little bit more into Najee Harris. Najee Harris struggled with efficiency last season. He did get a lot of volume, but that tells you that Jaylen Warren, if he's placed in that starting role, could just absolutely explode. So at running back 59, I like that pick for the upside there. All right, Fantasy Dog liked and subscribed. If you are like Fantasy Dog and you like the content, you find it helpful, make sure you hit that red subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow. And I appreciate all of you taking the time tonight, an hour and 24 minutes with me. It's so much fun being with y'all. It's a great time. Drafting, it's nothing like end of January drafts here on Bestball Fantasy YouTube channel with me, your host Bradley. I'm gonna be doing a lot more of these drafts, these live drafts with you. As you can tell, there's some players that I will be liking at value. And we'll go from there. Okay. Jose said, hit the thumbs up button too. Yeah, you can do that, but I'm getting really close. I've been working really hard to try to get this channel to be monetized, to get to that 1,000 subscriber threshold. So if you like the content, make sure you hit that red subscribe button. It really, really does help. And I'm going to continue to bring you quality fantasy content all off season. Going to be so much fun. Billy says he loves the Warren pick, and so should you. You should be in on Jaylen Warren as a late round running back pick. I mean, give me Jaylen Warren over Isaiah Spiller. Give me him over, Kareem Hunt, even. Heck, Kareem Hunt looked really bad at the end of the year. Billy asks, are you concerned Tua is still in the concussion protocol? At this point in the offseason, no. If we start getting into like May drafts or June drafts or whatever, and we still are hearing that Tua is there are concerns in the organization that there's concussion concerns, or that Tua is worried about how he'll come back, like, fine. But the upside at quarterback 12, like if Tua gets fully cleared, you got to think Tua goes over Kirk Cousins. You got to think Tua goes over Kyler Murray, right? You can see Tua being a top 9 quarterback. Okay. So I don't hate that. There we go. I don't disagree that it's career threatening. So we are monitoring, but I think it's worth that at this point. We're drafting in January. A lot can change here. Billy trying to use the old tricks of distracting me while I need a draft here. Let's look at another running back. Let's. I have my eyes on. Oh yes. I don't know if y'all can read this, but it says Dwayne McBride, no matter what. Dwayne McBride, no matter what. McBride is projected to be a day 4 or day 3 running back, round 4 running back per PFF. But if we're looking at the rushing grades for PFF, just for this year, among running backs with at least, what is it, 70 attempts? Dwayne McBride, just 70 attempts. Dwayne McBride was 5th in PFF rushing grade, 4.6 yards after contact per attempt. That is 2nd among all running backs. I am big in on Dwayne McBride as a 1st and 2nd down bruiser. He's going to be an early day 3 pick, but could he turn into a Tyler Algier type? Absolutely. So that's someone that is on my rookie radar. His breakaway rate was 52%. That was 18th among all running backs in college football who had at least 60, I think it's 70 rush attempts. And he's not much of a pass catcher, so let's not get carried away. But I will be very interested in seeing some measurables for Dwayne McBride here, okay? Because he could land on like an Atlanta Falcons from last year type. He could play for Carolina, right? If it's not Chuba Hubbard, and Chuba Hubbard goes off right afterwards. I like Chuba Hubbard as a deep dart throw, who had some nice efficiency, like running back 2 type of efficiency numbers. He didn't get a lot of volume because Donta Foreman, and he struggled with injuries, but Chuba Hubbard did improve from rookie year to sophomore year from an efficiency standpoint. So that's someone that I'm interested in. Billy said, dude may eat a popsicle and get a brain freeze and be back in protocol. For those who are unaware, Billy Muzio, the #1 2021 draft ranker. And I think, Billy, you finished 4th overall in all the Fantasy Pros actually rankings for the season. I finished a humble 50th. So Billy, the champion for the draft until we find someone else from 2022, unless Billy repeats. So we'll be cheering him on, my partner for 2 years in this fantasy space. So I'm grateful for a lot of the relationships that he and I have built over the last few years. It's always great to spend time with Billy. And thanks for popping in. I appreciate you a lot. And yeah, I sucked this year. Yeah, okay, Billy. Top 4 out of over 200 rankers and spending time with little old me. So yeah, we are in round 18. We're taking some shots here at running backs and wide receivers. We just saw Isaiah Hodgins go off the board. And those who are unfamiliar, I went on the GOAT District podcast and said that Isaiah Hodgins would be a deep league winner, deep round wide receiver league winner, and he ended up doing it. He outscored Devontae Adams in almost every game from week 14 onward, just because Adams sucked, well, along with Derek Carr. Both of them sucked so bad, and then finally Adams goes off for one game with Jarrett Stidham. Fine, like whatever. So Isaiah Hodgins was a nice call. Akuig Boonham goes off the board. He's a player that I'm eyebrow raising because of his athleticism. A little disappointing though. Yeah, let's see if there are a couple more players. I'm probably going to go one more running back, and we'll see what wide receivers are also available here. We're not going to go with those plays. Oh man. Well, he did. Michael Gallup went off. Michael Gallup is wide receiver 71 right now after Allen Robinson. I think Michael Gallup is going to be a great value this year. He is going to be 1 year removed from that ACL. And yes, he was a fade for me last year, but I think he's going to be a really nice pick. Williams from Detroit is already off the board, fantasy dog. So I'm not going to go with Jameson Williams. Williams went off pretty early. I think wide receiver 41 in round 8. So he's not available here. But Billy, I got to do something that's on brand for me. And that is drafting Russell Gage. Fun fact, it's Mike Evans and Russell Gage are the only 2 wide receivers of any significance on the payroll for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And look, Russell Gage may be the go-to for whoever is the quarterback for Tampa, because Tom Brady may not be there. Chris Godwin is expected to hit the market and just command money. So Russell Gage, I think, is going to be a nice little pick there at wide receiver 82. Wide receiver 83, Rashee Rice. I was reading and listening to some updates about the Senior Bowl, and Rashee Rice did not play well. So there you go. Until he pulls a hammy on his sock. I don't know about that. But Gage is also a nice little handcuff for Mike Evans. There's a correlation there. I think that Gage will get some targets if Mike Evans goes down. And that's what we saw with Gage when he was in Atlanta, and Calvin Ridley or Julio Jones would go out and Russell Gage would get lots and lots of targets. So getting him at 82, fine. Like you're just taking some shots here. Yeah, I think we do want a couple more running backs. So let's take a look at who is available among all the running backs. Well, here are some running backs who have not been drafted so far. I'm not saying that I will or won't draft them, but I want to throw out that we are entering into round number 19 and 20, and Chase Edmonds, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Darrell Henderson, James Robinson still on the board. Some of them may be more surprising than others, but like Latavius Murray is still on the board. He is surprised. He's like a cockroach. Like Latavius Murray does not go away. right? Latavius Murray's going to be picked up like in week 8 by some team that loses their running back, and he's just going to get 12 carries for 40 yards and might fall into the end zone. Like, that's what Latavius Murray's going to give you. So even at, I think he's over 30 years old right now. But that's what we're looking at. Running back rate. This is crazy that Latavius Murray, where is he? Yeah, Latavius Murray he was running back 27 in rate of games with at least 12.5 fantasy points. He was ahead of Dobbins and DeAndre Swift in that rate. He was ahead of Raheem Mostert and Kenyon Drake and James Robinson, Zonovan Knight, Devin Singletary, Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson, Najee Harris. Like, that's crazy to me that like Latavius Murray just wouldn't go away. Oh man, there are some late round dart throws here. I know I'm on the clock right now. Maybe Tony Pollard doesn't get re-signed. Malik Davis for Dallas. Just round 19, take a shot. We'll see if he hits it all. Yeah. We'll see if Malik Davis hits it all. Just, this is where you take your shots. And right now I have 6 running backs. And I think I have 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9 wide receivers. So I have a 2, 6, 9, 2 build going into the last round. And then I'll do a quick recap. And of course, if you like the content, you find it helpful, you like talking through these players, make sure you hit that red subscribe button. I'll be putting out a lot of content, and I'll probably be chopping this up throughout the week and posting more of the videos on the player takes that I have and some strategy as well. So look forward to doing this with you for the rest of the off season, giving player takes, player profiles, giving some strategy, draft advice, all of that. Really appreciate all that you guys have done to support this channel and support me. Hey, fun fact, I have a merch site up, Bestball Fantasy. You can check out the YouTube description. I believe it's in there. If you want to get in on some of the merch that is available to you. Of course, that helps me with the channel and everything. So if you are interested in joining the Bestball Fantasy Club, I'll be planning to do some giveaways for Bestball merch throughout the off season. So keep that in mind. Be subscribed to the channel so you can get alerts for when those happen. And yeah, there's going to be some giveaways for the merch, but also for the upside guide that'll be coming out here in a couple months. I've been working very, very hard to get that going. I have a real nice base for it, and we will see how it turns out. I already have a cover ready and a format, and it's going to be really, really nice. So I'm excited to get content and get products out to y'all over the course of the next few months. Lots of fun. I also have a Substack that I will be updating throughout the off season. I'll probably be doing a review of this draft and talking about some of the draft picks, going through each of them. And right now, the Substack is all free. It is all free. Now, if you want to throw me some bucks, that's totally fine. In the Substack, that is totally okay. But I want to just throw a couple of those things out there for you. Is really, really fun. A lot of good times had. And these have been some challenging drafters to play against. So let's see if there are any. Oh, KJ Hamler goes off the board. That was a nice little pick there. Okay, well, let's see if there are any other. Oh, there's a day 2 wide receiver that's expected to go. Do I take him as my 10th? Yeah, I think I take another wide receiver here. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, this is projected by PFF to be a day 2 pick. Not just day 2, but a round 2 pick. My last pick here. So we'll see. Now not just day 2, but round 2, Parker Washington. Yeah. Parker Washington. Now let me pull up some Parker Washington stats for y'all, because he's getting a lot of love in the draft capital PFF range. So let me see if I can get some stats for y'all. Anyways, I'll find it in a little bit, but nevertheless, this is taking shots on players that may hit, and maybe they won't, but like, you may hit on play. Oh, John Mechie going off. That was a nice little pick, really late. Wide receiver 92, second round pick this last year, who battled cancer and also is recovering from an ACL tear. A year and a half removed now. John Mechie is a real nice late pick. So hats off to that particular drafter for taking Mechie. But you want to be taking players who have that draft capital. We don't know where they're going to land. There's some ambiguity there. And at wide receiver 90, it doesn't take a lot for all we need is Parker Washington to hit 1 or 2 games, right? We only need him to hit a couple games for him to be valuable. So our goal for each of the weeks for PPR is to get 161 fantasy points. In regular PPR, I think we want to bump it up just a tad, maybe 163, 165 in this tight end premium. But getting Travis Kelce will help us get there. Getting Patrick Mahomes will help us get there. Waddle, Cook, and Jones should be a strong start. Evans, and then Connor in the flex, and then someone somewhere is going to come in big. So my draft went Kelce, then Waddle, Mahomes to stack with Kelce, Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones, Evans at wide receiver 29, Connor at running back 25. Okay, and that was after Rachaad White, which, fine. And then, because I'm not convinced that Isaiah Pacheco does hold down that number 1 running back spot. We will see how that goes. He did look good, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire did not play at all. Well, I don't think they completely throw away Clyde Edwards-Helaire either. And then I went Quentin Johnson at wide receiver 40. Tua at quarterback 12. He's going as quarterback 11 on Underdog. And to stack with Waddle, that was just the right price, the right place for Tua. Then Michael Thomas at wide receiver 51 has a lot of upside. And I think is the Antonio Brown corollary. He's just going to be, a good player if he is on the field. That's the big contingency. Zay Flowers, Josh Downs, both projected per PFF in almost all the mock drafts I've seen to be top 34 NFL draft picks. Josh Downs, an early declare. Zay Jones is getting a lot of love in the early mock drafts. Even Mel Kiper, I think, had him in the top 32 and mentioned him on ESPN. But that's not the reason why. I think that he gets a lot really nice draft capital. Lazard was all about value at that point. Wide receiver 61 for Allen Lazard. Yeah, give me that. A player who was top 14 in expected rate of top 5 weeks for 2022. Taysom Hill at tight end 25. We know what kind of upside Taysom Hill brings to the table. Then Curtis Samuel, wide receiver 67, has some flash plays, some gadgety plays, can be a nice flex fill in week to week. Jaylen Warren was simply a handcuff pick, but an extremely efficient handcuff pick. Dwayne McBride, I'm a truther. I pull out my sheet. Dwayne McBride, no matter what. Okay, that's going to be, I'm already planting my flag. I don't care. Dwayne McBride, running back 65, then Russell Gage, wide receiver 82 in round 18. Tyjae Spears was a nice pick by the 101 picker. But then I went Malik Davis and running back 70 and Parker Washington at wide receiver 90. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you hit that red subscribe button if you find all of this helpful. Once again, my name is Bradley Stalder. You can follow me on Twitter at FFStalder. You can find it there on Twitter and also hit that red subscribe button on YouTube. This is so much fun. I appreciate all of you. And until next time, good luck in the best ball streets.
I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bell, I'm the best tail. Into the next world, guess I got next still. Best bell, I'm the best tail. Into the next world, guess I got next still.